Alright, let's see here. We've done fastest bikes of all time, dumbest bikes of all time, most fun motorcycles of all time. What other list in the of all time mold can I think of? Well, I've got one. The most dangerous bikes of all time. The kind of bike where you twist the throttle and instantly depart this mortal coil to join the choir invisible to endlessly sing hymns about Rossi's fabled 200th podium. Look guys, let's face it, you, me, and Rossi, we all know that last podium ain't happening, not if next year's anything close to this year, but Rossi's shattered dreams aside, there's really no such thing as a safe motorcycle, since no matter what you're riding, you're exposed to the elements and your own stupidity, and there's just no way around it. Sure, you can spend thousands of dollars on airbag gear and super fancy helmets and a ton of high-vis to the point where you shine brighter than 1,000 suns, blinding all the oncoming drivers. And wait a minute, that sounds counterproductive actually. Well, you heard it here first, folks. High-vis is officially deemed unsafe. I'm joking, obviously, but if you want to minimize the chances of getting hurt on a motorcycle, I've assembled a list of some of the most unsafe bikes on the planet for you to avoid. There's a lot of reasons why they're on here, and some might surprise you. And no, we're not going to include the Death Trap Craigslist leader bike that you bought last week. Number 1 on the list of motorcycles to avoid if you want to live is the GSX 250R. Yep, I told you, some of these bikes might surprise you. Now, this one is aimed specifically at the American audience, as I know all the Euro boys are now already clamoring away, telling me that all you need to be happy in life is a 125, but if you live in the good old USA, there is such a thing as not having enough power. Let's say, for example, you're riding down the highway in 6th gear, completely tapped out at 70 miles per hour, and that little 249cc engine is screaming at 7,500 RPMs. What happens if you need to quickly accelerate out of your lane? Chances are you're probably already completely pinned, and getting that little bike to its 88 mile per hour top speed and will require a steep decline, a tailwind, and a faster motorcycle you can tie a rope to drag it with. Yes, I like to make fun of the GSX 250R, but in America, it basically is a giant waste of money. I can't believe it's come to this point where you need at least a 300 if you want to have fun and not ruthlessly be made fun of and have enough power to get out of hairy situations. If you want my advice, the single greatest beginner bike you can spend money on is this Fartpillin 401. It's light, it's fast, it's playful, it's cheap, it can go on-road, off-road, it looks cool, it can outrun a 1990 Geo Metro. I can't say the same thing about the GSX 250R, unfortunately. Number 2 goes to the R1. Yeah, we gave one away earlier this year. In the 4 months we spent with the motorcycle, both me and Spite hit some, shall we say, fast speeds. Of course, I only did that on the racetrack. You can see here my indicated top speed of 154 miles per hour, only on a racetrack. I would never do such a thing on a public street. That bike is dangerous for the exact opposite reason of the GSX 250R, and that's because it accelerates like nothing else out there. You might think your Hayabusa is fast, you might think that your Tuono has a ton of torque and has the best sound out there, but nothing comes close to touching the R1. It's truly a one-of-a-kind motorcycle, and that's the problem. If you pick up one of these bikes, it's entirely possible to ride it like a normal person. We all know the saying that the bike only goes as fast as you twist the throttle, and the throttle response in B mode is smooth, it's predictable, the handling is razor sharp, and it's drop-dead sexy, and its engine note is a siren's call. You'll hear the low-end grumble and think to yourself, yeah, I want to hear a little more. Crack the throttle open a little bit more and you start to hear this change in tones going from a growl to a scream, and then you look down and you're doing 130 miles per hour in a school zone. That bike snaps up to speed in no time at all, to the point where it literally looks like you're entering hyperspace in Star Wars. You go full plaid on this motorcycle. The crazy thing is how confidence inspiring it is at speed because of all the crazy electronics it has and stuff, and that giant Nissan Master Cylinder will yank an endo faster than you can say, "Oh God, help me, Rossi, please." The new R1 will certainly run up a staggering body count, and it deserves the utmost respect. Beginner riders beware, this is a bike that will kill you if you don't handle it correctly. Number 3 is like an R1 on bath salts. It's the KTM 1290 Super Duke. If you feel like you're riding a unicycle made from the nightmares of psychotic mass-murdering clown, then run out and pick up yourself one of these unruly monsters. We just made an entire video about the Super Duke, and after spending a day riding it around, I can say it's the most ridiculous motorcycle out there. If you didn't watch that video, shame on you. It was a good one. We had a lot of fun, but I'll give you the cliff notes here. It's 180 horsepower, 108 foot-pounds of torque, 460 pounds wet and ready to ride. This bike will rip your arms off and laugh at your bloody stumps. The crazy thing is that the older models basically don't have any safety features. Sure, you have wheelie control, but you can overwhelm that pretty easily. You have ABS, but you can outride that without even trying. And what's the point of traction control when you have 108 foot-pounds of torque? The thing that baffles me about the Super Duke is that it's completely pointless. Yes, it has fancy WP suspension for track days, but being a naked bike, there are much better track day toys. And as a commuter, the twitchy throttle makes it like riding a grizzly bear with a saddle. To the people out there who daily Super Dukes, I tip my hat because y'all are some courageous mother truckers. There are few things in this world that snap as hard off the line as a Super Duke, and if you're not careful with the throttle, it will chop your head off. Number 4 is a classic. It's the 1971 Kawasaki H2 Mach 4, otherwise known as the Widowmaker. This was, at the time, the fastest production motorcycle out there. It featured a 3-cylinder 2-stroke putting down 74 horsepower and weighing only 452 pounds. Thanks to the 2-stroke design, it made a ton of low-down torque and had a huge burst of power coming on at 3,500 RPM. No matter where you were in the rev range, this motorcycle only wanted to go faster, and the proto-Kyles of days of yore over at Kawasaki figured it only needed one single disc brake up front, with a single piston caliper and a drum brake in the back. Sure, because when you need to stop a bike quick, fast, and in a hurry, we all know that the best thing you can do is just fling yourself over the bike and hope for the best. These bikes are collector items nowadays, but the H2 lives on in Kawasaki's lineup as a super insane, supercharged H2, and in case you thought the Kawasaki had calmed down as it got older, it definitely didn't. If you're planning on some UJM Cafe Racer build, I'd suggest going for the CB750 if you intend to live through it. Now, a lot of you might be thinking that it's 74 horsepower and 452 pounds, my SV650 is faster, but it's the power characteristics of this 2-stroke that made it really unwieldy to ride. It reminds me a lot of the 500cc monsters and GP of days past. The power came on quick, relentlessly, and caused some of those fantastic high sides we used to see. But we all know that the most common cause of death nowadays is humiliation. You do something dumb and everyone around you sees it and you die on the inside. That's even worse than being 6 foot under. One of the quickest ways to humiliate yourself is to be using some cheapo wallet you bought in 3rd grade. No, it's not grunge or old school. You're not a hipster. You're just some cheap 20-something with no sense of shame. Get your act together, my dude. Buy a Ridge wallet. The Ridge makes the best in minimal everyday carries. They look good and carry everything you need in one sleek little package. As an anecdote, I recently hired on a new person at the Yammie Noob team. Her name is Whitney, and she does not have a Ridge wallet, and I shit you not, every other day she pulls out her wallet and cards fly out of her pocket. I'm not kidding. She's had to pick up her debit card off the side of the road and we're filming on location several times. Whitney, if you're watching this video, get a Ridge wallet. It's got RFID blocking technology, thousands of 5-star reviews, and if you click the link below and use the code YammieNoob, you'll get yourself 10% off your order and free shipping. The Ridge has been a long-time supporter of our shenanigans. We're coming up on 2 years of sponsorship with them, and I've been carrying one just as long. Be like me, get a Ridge wallet, and ascend to Papa Yamhood. Use the code YammieNoob, 10% off, just do it. Now, number 5 on today's list of deadly motorcycles would be someone else's project crap bike. Yeah, I said I wasn't going to talk about Craigslist leader bikes. This is like the 3rd or 4th time we've had to tell you to not buy someone else's project, but I still see people doing it for some reason. Let's take a second to explain this in some very small words, just in case our polysyllabic diction frightens some of the unenlightened in the YouTube comments section. Crap bike bad. Not safe to ride. Buy Turbo Busa instead. Seriously though, buying someone else's project motorcycle is a bad idea for a number of reasons, chiefly that you can't verify that the work was done with any sort of quality. Did the previous owner change the cam timing a little because they thought they were smart in making the bike faster, or maybe they chopped out some pieces that looked harmless to save weight, only to realize later that the subframe on a motorcycle actually serves a purpose? Or maybe they just chopped the exhaust at the headers because they wanted to make their motorcycle as obnoxious as humanly possible. Now look, it's okay to have a project motorcycle. Maybe you bought a bike off some old guy and it needs a touch-up, or you found a super rare bar find, or maybe you just hate yourself, but you always have the bike looked over by an actual mechanic before you take it over for a ride, unless you are a mechanic yourself. But project bikes are seriously dangerous unless you really know what you're doing. Number 6 on today's list are 3-wheelers. Now you might be thinking to yourself, how in the heck are 3-wheelers dangerous? They have more contact patches, they're slow as hell, and only boomers ride them. Well, what makes 3-wheelers so dangerous is down to their handling characteristic. Old school 3-wheelers like the Honda ATCs and the more modern Harley Tri-Glides have a tendency to roll if you take a corner too fast. Because they only have the 1 wheel up front and 2 in the back, they can't lean into a corner. If you come in too hot, they'll pick up the inside rear tire and fling themselves into a ditch, typically right on top of the rider. If you grew up in rural America, chances are you've heard a story about someone in town got all hammered one day and tried to ride their buddy's three-wheeler and now takes his chicken fried steak through a tube. Trikes like the Can-Am Spider and the Polaris Slingshot are better since they have two wheels up front, but they still spin out if you push them too hard. Also, since you basically take up an entire lane, there's no place for you to go if you see a pothole on the road or something else you need to avoid. You better just hold on tight and hope that your suspension works as advertised on your road-going snowmobile. Number 7 are cruisers. Now, it's not the bike necessarily, and I'm sorry to do this to an entire segment of motorcyclists, but statistically speaking, cruiser motorcycle riders are more likely to be involved in fatal accidents than just about any other sort of bike. Yes, high-powered sport bikes can be involved in fatal accidents, but typically sport bike riders are young, wearing full gear, and keeps high-speed chicanery to the track, and they tend to not mix alcohol in riding. By contrast, cruiser riders tend to be older, wear less gear or none at all, and I can't remember the last time I've driven by Coyote Ugly on 6th Street and not seen a line of baggers out front. Don't be fooled into thinking that just because you're on a laid-back bike that you're somehow safer, because 45 miles per hour on a Harley and 45 miles per hour on a Busa are exactly the same if you go down. I know we're talking about a sharp right-hander to some serious stuff, but please, if you only learn one thing out of this video, is don't drink and ride. I don't want to be preachy, but I also don't want to hear about any of my lovely little squidlets getting out there and hurt. Ride safe, my dudes. There's literally no excuse to mix alcohol and getting on two wheels. And because I love you so much, here's your fact of the day. Fact: tennis players are not allowed to swear when they're playing in Wimbledon. Because of this line, judges have to learn curse words in every language so they know when a player has violated the rules. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. So, I hate to break it to you, but this video is actually over. But if you hit this one right over here, you can keep watching your sweet Papa Yam doing some fun stuff. And if for nothing else, do it for Yammie-chan. Don't worry, I'll wait. I'll just wait. It's okay. Take your time.